So I'll tell you a book that I'm absolutely flipping out right now over is by Peggy Mohan, and it's just come out. It's called Wanderers, Kings, Merchants, the story of India through its languages. And it is one of the most interesting things that I have seen in years and years and years. Okay. So first of all, the diversity of Indian languages, right? Peggy is one of the most interesting linguists that there is. She's also a novelist. She's also a musician. Hers is a beautifully hyphenated identity, and I think that her work is spectacular. This book in particular looks at and defangs so many ideas that people take for granted. First of all, what I love about it is that it brings in economics, it brings in politics, and it talks about how language is simultaneously all these things, because each of these areas is crafted in and through language. So we keep talking about languages of power, but also there is the power of language to shape each of these fields. And it is easily the most interesting book on India that I can recommend at the moment. And heaven knows I keep my eye out in this space. So take my word for it. This is one of the most exciting things that I have seen on India in the longest time. Another book that I read, thoroughly enjoyed. This one is a work of fiction. Comes out in 2019, and it's by Isabel Allende. It's called A Long Petal of the Sea. And it's brilliant because it speaks about the end of the Spanish War. And so it's that cusp era is where it's set, between the end of the Spanish War and the beginning of the Second World War. And how you may have heard of a poet called Pablo Neruda. And the man commandeers a ship from Europe full of refugees fleeing Franco's Spain, fleeing persecution in Spain, and repatriates them in Chile. And this is a story of that journey and of what happens to that community once they get to this new land. The book that I think might be of use and interest to people who will work in areas allied to, I guess, brands and advertising and marketing and so on and so forth, is on Deep Metaphors by the two Zaltmans, the man who comes up with the Zaltman metaphor elicitation technique, Gerald Zaltman, and his son. So together they write a book called Deep Metaphors. The Metaphors We Live By is what the book is called. And that's a really interesting one, especially because at moments of immense flux like this, because we're living through a pandemic, if you're looking for certain spaces that you can hold on to and build on, the deep metaphors that we live by, which are the slowest to change, that's where you want to look. You don't want to look at things that are flashes in the pan. You don't want to look for things that will come and go extremely quickly. Okay, so the three shows that I think anybody who's at all interested in issues to do with mental health, and I think everybody kind of needs to be really, really mindful of those at the moment, especially. Two shows off the top of my head. A show called Flowers, Flowers, okay, just Flowers, which I think originally was commissioned for the BBC, but I saw it on Netflix and I think it's absolutely brilliant. I don't know that I've ever seen mental health dealt with so much dark humor, but so much heart. It's done incredibly well. And of course, another show that I think will really resonate for a lot of you, because it's kind of your demographic, is also another show on Netflix called Please Like Me. And that speaks about LGBTQIA+ issues and mental health, again, in ways that have so much heart and so much humor, that I think that they were, when I found them in my life, like in times of immense turmoil, because through the pandemic, etc., they almost became like rafts that I could hold on to and, just kind of soothingly sail away on for a few hours. So there was those two shows, and the show that I really, really enjoy. That one's just like an old, comfortable blanket, I suppose. When the world is too much with me, I'll watch a little bit of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because who doesn't, right? Everybody needs a little bit of ridiculous in their lives. Now, 3 films. I'm going to give you 3 films that I think are very, very exciting, and they're all fairly current. So you should be able to find all of them. I'm going to give you fiction, not documentaries. The most recent one, of course, is Karnan. Karnan is on, I believe, Amazon Prime, okay? And it is magic real, but it's a take on the dismantling of the bones of the caste system. So it looks at caste as an animating, structuring principle in our lives, which is something that altogether too many of us don't engage with enough. And it forces us to look at the brutality of it, but the triumphant spirit that is able to tear it up. Two other films. One is called Thithi, like Phithi is how it's spelled, okay? By Ram Reddy. And again, it spans generations. It's set in a very, very rural setting, and there's a quiet, dark humor about it that I was laughing my way through the entire thing. I was like roaring like a bloody hyena. Very, very well done, incredibly moving, very beautiful. And the last, and possibly the one that I feel closest to, because I think it's so gorgeous, is a film that came out last year called Baleu. And it's about people who wander around Delhi and make monkey calls. Like the calls that they make are Eeb, Ale, and U. Those are the sounds. And these guys wander around, the Janpat Rajpat area to chase away monkeys. And that is legitimately their job. And the entire universe that the filmmaker creates around this sort of a setting with these characters. Oof. So yeah, those are my 3 film recommendations.